So, which daily trainer is the better daily trainer? Is it the Nike React Infinity Run Flyknit 3, or is it the Adidas Ultraboost 22? Let's compare and contrast them both, and let's talk about it. So before we get into it, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're already subscribed watching this content. Thanks so much, love you guys a lot. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, Strava for all sorts of other updates, racing, life, all sorts of other events. If you want to buy, sell shoes for me, you can also do that there too. Just message me on whatever platform. So without further ado, let's begin. Specs for both shoes right here. And then we're just going to get right into it, I suppose, with kind of just some preface items. I mean, obviously, we can probably tell, maybe not from the React 3, but maybe if we bring in the React 1, if we bring it in. Hey! Look what we got here. Look what I dug up. It's the React Infinity 1. This is probably a more important, maybe a more, I guess, pertinent comparison for this particular case. But anyways, yeah. The idea here is that they're both some kind of like everyday recovery daily trainer type of shoe, right? That's what they're ultimately supposed to be in this particular case in both of their respective brands. But it could be fair to assume, I don't know a whole lot about the Ultraboost 21, but I think the Ultraboost 22 in this case can be taking some of the features from the React Infinity Flyknit 1 and just basically being not necessarily a carbon copy, but maybe, I guess, like a scalable copy in this particular sense. So it's not like they're reinventing the wheel in this particular case. It's just in this particular comparison, this shoe came out, I believe, in like either late 2019, early 2020. I remember getting this pair like in March or April of 2020, and then this came out in 2021. So it's fair to say that, the Ultraboost 22 is going to have some features taken from the React Infinity Flyknit 1. However, I'll leave this one on the side. That shoe is definitely retired, by the way. This is the one that also, for my daily lineup, is inactive/retired because just there's enough wear on this rubber where like I can't necessarily use it. Maybe in like dire emergency I will. But anyways, yeah, specs as you can kind of see them here. We'll start with the Ultraboost 22, the newer of the two shoes. It does have a heel of 31, forefoot of 21, giving it a 10mm offset stack height overall. So a lot of emphasis on a forefoot to midfoot strike, depending on how your foot is kind of positioned in the shoe. Also has about a weight of, I think, like 10.8 ounces. Actually, no, that's the Infinity React. This is 11.5 ounces. This is the heavier of the two shoes in this particular case. But the nice thing about the Ultraboost is it doesn't feel necessarily as heavy as it actually is. That's a plus. That should always be a plus, because the idea with like most of your daily trainers is if you do add weight to them, it's not necessarily a bad thing. You just need to utilize the weight properly. So what is the Ultraboost doing to essentially make the most of its weight? I would say a lot has to do with the boost rubber and maybe the stationing of the rubber on the shoe. In this particular case, I think there's just enough rebound in the shoe for its weight to make it effective, but it's not like the world's greatest rebound in terms of like energy return. There's no carbon plate or any sort of AirPod technology. It is what it is in this particular case, right? So, yeah, as a daily trainer, the Ultraboost 22 is built just nicely with its mesh upper, the Adidas, I guess, like plastic textile pieces holding the shoelaces together and just kind of weaving it through. And we got a nice heel cup with a lot of structure here. And we got a great pull tongue if you want to slide into the shoe fairly quickly. That's what's working for the Ultraboost 22. Now with the Infinity React Run Flyknit, I guess the shoe, as it's kind of had its evolution since the React Infinity 1, has been kind of going south, I think, overall, and I think most people would agree with that. There was just something about the React Infinity 1 that just worked really well, right? This was like this Swiss cheese spaceship rubber going on, particularly with the foam, where we've got, just this React running all the way across, giving it, I think it has an 8mm offset, and I believe the foam, what do we got on our notes? We got a 34mm heel and a 26mm forefoot, and that is exactly the same in its, successors. I say successors because I don't have the React Infinity 2 anymore. That was just way too bulky, and then 3 just kind of cut some of that meat off, but it still has a lot more than the React Infinity 1, right? So you can tell, perfect white-colored shoe, no mess whatsoever. I'll sell it to you for $770 if you want it right now. Comes in the exact condition it is. This is just the way it is. Whatever. It's a little joke, by the way. I'll sell this shoe to you in Minecraft for $770. But moving on, the point here is that there's features to this shoe that make it an effective recovery daily trainer despite its weight. Now, the lockdown wasn't super great in the first rendition of the shoe. It got better in the third one. It was kind of okay in the second one. But again, as the shoe had evolutionized as it was going along, a lot of other companies, like Adidas, I think started taking this blueprint because they saw how well this shoe was working overall and ended up just basically copying it to an extent. Again, with this shoe, easy slide on going on here, has a nice heel cup for some strength in the heel to keep you locked down. The foam build and the rubber structure was really nice. Just over time, as it started losing some of its, outsole structure, it does get kind of slippery when you run on water and ice and things like that. So that's just something to look out for. Pausing here to mute the watch. Okay, there we go. That was kind of important to do. Now let's talk some major differences between both shoes. Of course, one of the first things we're going to obviously talk about is just the way the mesh uppers are established. One, I think, is a lot thicker than the other, and I think the React Infinity Run Flyknit 3 has a lot more material and more moving parts in the upper in this particular case, just to give you some warmth during the winter, I suppose, when you run with it. During the summer, not very good. I've had experiences while I was running or like doing long runs in this shoe, and it just started feeling like I was absorbing way too much moisture, and like at the end of like an extremely humid 11-mile run, there was just pure water in the shoe and there was just no way for it to escape, right? So it was pretty bad conditioning for that particular run, but overall the shoe performed quite well in those particular conditions. Other things to note, I mean, the lockdown is better in this shoe than it used to be, except like this heel cup here, I spread it out a lot more because of like maybe socks and different things, but the lockdown isn't nearly as, I think, great in this particular case as the Adidas Ultraboost 22, despite how well you can slip into this shoe, right? So obviously the heel cup here is a lot tighter, and I think that ends up working in a way with even this plastic heel cap here, just to keep the foot locked down where you don't need an extra, I guess, like eyelid to tie your shoe down in this case. So lockdown perspective, I like the Ultraboost 22 better than the Infinity React. In terms of ride, I think after a first ride, I'll say this much. I'm going to go by the one that hurts the least. So I'm going to give this one to the Infinity React Run Flyknit 3 for now, because there's no sort of pinching while I was running in this shoe in terms of pain and anything like that. And we'll put performance into a different category. But in terms of pain, there was no pain while running in this shoe. It's a comfortable shoe. I knew what to expect from it being a heavier, slower shoe that, like, yeah, I'm going to run at maybe like 8 minutes, 8:30, maybe even 9 minute per mile pace depending on the day. And it's going to be pretty much pain-free as long as I've taken care of my feet prior to my workout. So it's like, you know, cutting toenails and things like that. The shoe's going to be fine. Whereas in the Ultraboost 22, I did point out that in this right foot, I had some pinching because of this like plastic textile inlay kind of drilling into my foot. And I think from some of the comments I've seen and some messages I've gotten on Instagram, others have been experiencing the same kind of thing. So that's kind of a major flaw in terms of a shoe design. But there's an asterisk I put on this, that for $160, I think that's what I bought this shoe for, $140, this shoe better perform better than a $60 to $100 shoe with that kind of pain, right? So yeah, the Infinity React gets by in the performance sector of this, or in terms of the ride, it gets by because it is pain-free, and for its price, it better be pain-free. Now, if there was pinching in this shoe, I would definitely take the Adidas Ultraboost over it because it's cheaper, experiencing the same pain. Now, in terms of performance, this is where things, I think I've alluded to this in a previous comparison. The ride factor in its performance is like the strike feels kind of flat in this shoe and feels a little bit rounded. So it's a safe, slower shoe in this particular case. It's not fast. I don't think it was intended to be fast, but it's comfortable, right? So for its utility, I think the shoe, the Infinity React will do just fine as like your everyday ride shoe and your recovery kind of runner. So don't take it on like a tempo run or anything because it won't perform that well in that particular category. Now, in the Ultraboost, I was experiencing this on like the treadmill and some other workouts that I was doing, this shoe has the recovery function, it has the everyday function, and I think it has like a little bit of a slightly faster than everyday pace kind of run quality. I'm not saying put this through like a tempo run, for example. There's like more particular shoes you would use for that speed. But if you wanted to push it into a tempo pace, you would just start lacking a little bit of stability in the shoe overall because of its weight. When you want to start like pushing those faster speeds, it's just my opinion that you have a lighter, more controlled shoe with your natural, I guess, like leg structure, muscles, tendons being a lot stronger to control that shoe. Whereas when you get a heavier shoe, I don't think the effect of having like a brick running is necessarily applied. It's what's happening is now you're just dragging the shoe along with you and you're not getting much of an energy return out of it. But again, if somebody has a different experience or would like to prove that differently in the comment section, let me know. Otherwise, that's been my theory as to why you would rather, granted there's like a bazillion other factors too, why you would do a speed training run in something like a Tempo Next Percent, the Zoomfly 5, a Vaporfly Next Percent, over something like an Adidas Ultraboost or like an Infinity React Run Flyknit. Just as kind of the point there. So, at the end of the day, which shoe should you buy? I guess it comes down to a couple of things. One, brand loyalty is something you should probably consider in this option. If you are a Nike person, yeah, you'll enjoy the Infinity React Run Flyknit 3. If you're an Adidas person or you hate Nike, which you could be in that category, the Adidas Ultraboost is a good option. And I believe there was one other shoe that was kind of comparable to the Ultraboost. If I find it, I'm going to write it down somewhere down here. It wasn't a shoe I tried, but it was something that was recommended as an Ultraboost-like equivalent. So if I ever come across that shoe, I'll definitely review it at some point. So that's one thing to consider. Your budget is something to consider. If you're like trying to buy a shoe under $100, the Ultraboost 22 is probably the move to go. If you have a little bit more of a spending budget and you're happy wearing something that you can guarantee at least some comfort in but won't be necessarily fast, I'd say the Infinity React Run Flyknit 3 is probably your option in that particular case. Unless you have some more niche utility and you want to be a little bit faster, have that everyday pace and have the recovery pace, but you will be able to account for the fact that you may experience some pain from this textile on both of your feet, then I would say the Ultraboost 22 is probably your move. In terms of a better shoe though, considering that these two might be sort of carbon copies of one another, at least one is kind of prototyping the other, I would give this one ultimately to the predecessor, right? The Infinity React series shoe that, like, if I had to choose between buying both of these right now, I would still probably buy the Swiss cheese spaceship looking shoe, only because I know how the shoe rides. I know I kind of have sort of a brand loyalty to Nike, but not really. It's just the shoe that usually comes up most in terms of things I want to try out. As of right now I'm going to start exploring a lot more other brands like Cloud. I know everyone's raving about Mizuno and things like that, so I'm going to check those out as well. But yeah, just naturally I'm going to lean towards having the Infinity React over the Ultraboost for now. Just for now. Maybe if there's an update to this video and like I'm 100 miles deep into this shoe and I see something revolutionary, I'll redo this video and kind of just explain why the Ultraboost 22 ultimately becomes the better shoe. So I'm going to leave the video here with my thoughts. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys basically in the next one.